A player so unstoppable, the NBA invented an invisible force field just to slow him down. Another legend so powerful, the NBA had to redesign arenas to stop him. And a god so dominant, they banned the dunk entirely for 10 years just to make it fair. This isn't just basketball, this is an arms race. These weren't just players, they were exploits, and the NBA had to patch the entire sport just to stop them. Today, we're exposing every player the NBA was forced to stop, starting with the overpowered, moving to the completely broken, and finishing with the one rule change that accidentally destroyed Michael Jordan's final comeback. We'll break down the rule, why they made it, how it broke the game, and what their legacy is today. The force field. We have to start with the first basketball exploit ever, the one that forced the league to invent a new law of physics. Before the 1940s, the NBA had a problem, and his name was George Mikan. He was the league's first giant. He'd park himself under the rim, wait for the other team to shoot, then jump up and catch the ball on its way down. It was an unstoppable defensive cheat code that broke the game. Why even shoot? So the league in a panic invented goaltending, a new rule that players couldn't touch the ball in its downward arc or when the ball is above the rim. They had to invent an invisible barrier above the rim just to stop one man. So the league nerfed Mikan by inventing an invisible wall, but that patch only fixed a defensive exploit. The league's next problem was a player who found a loophole so stupidly effective it broke the game on offense entirely. The con artist. Reggie Miller was one of the greatest shooters ever, but his most dangerous move wasn't his shot, it was his leg. When a defender would contest his jumper, Reggie would intentionally kick his leg out, flailing into the defender's body. It was a brilliant dirty move that was technically an offensive foul, but referees, tricked by the contact, would almost always call a defensive foul, which guaranteed Reggie free throws. For 18 years, Reggie tortured the league, but in 2012, long after he retired, the NBA finally created the Reggie Miller rule, making it an offensive foul. It was a nerf that came decades too late. Reggie broke the rules with finesse, but our next legend, well, he broke the game with his butt. The 5-second glitch. In the 90s, Charles Barkley found an infinite dribble glitch. He'd get the ball in the post, turn his back, and just dribble. He'd use his legendary backside as a 300-pound shield, pushing defenders under the basket 1 inch at a time. Defenders couldn't stop it, the refs couldn't do anything, and the shot clock gave him plenty of time. It was a one-man siege that was grinding the game to a halt. It was broken and boring. So in 1999, the NBA's devs pushed a hot fix, the 5-second back down rule, a patch making it illegal to dribble with your back to the basket for more than 5 seconds. The league had to invent a timer just to stop Charles Barkley's butt. But what happens when a player's exploit isn't his body but his mouth? The king of crime. Rasheed Wallace didn't just play the game, he played the referee. His exploit was pure intimidation. He would stare down, yell, and harass officials until they just broke. He holds the all-time record with 41 technical fouls in a season. He was getting a technical almost every other game and making the league look horrible. So in 2006, the NBA, led by Commissioner David Stern, pushed for a massive update. They created the zero tolerance policy, a new rule where any complaint, any aggressive gesture, and anything the refs didn't like was automatically a technical foul. So the league had to reprogram its referees just to stop one man's attitude. But our next legend was so physically powerful, he broke the stadiums himself. The arena breaker. Shaquille O'Neal wasn't just a player. He was a 7'1", 325-pound force of nature. And in 1993, he did the unthinkable twice. Against the Nets, he dunked so hard he tore the entire 5,000-pound basket support from the ceiling and broke the game clock, stopping the game for 45 minutes. A month later, he did it again. A putback dunk so violent it snapped a steel brace, shattered the backboard, and sent the whole thing crashing down. The NBA had a crisis. One man was literally destroying their arenas. But they couldn't nerf Shaq, so they nerfed the backboard. After that season, the league mandated that every basket in the NBA be reinforced with steel support braces and breakaway rims, all to withstand the force of one player. So the league patched the hardware to stop Shaq from breaking the arena, but you can't patch a player's style. And the NBA's most electric superstar was a walking crime, a cheat code so fast the league just had to look the other way. The cheat code. In the late 90s, Allen Iverson brought street ball to the NBA, and with him he brought his secret weapon, the crossover. But Iverson's crossover wasn't just a move, it was a crime. He would stop, plant, and cup the ball, his hand almost completely underneath it. It was by definition a palming violation or a carry, but he'd do it 20 times per game. Referees knew it, defenders knew it, everyone knew it. This wasn't just a pro move, it was a glitch, but it was electric and totally unguardable. So the NBA had a choice, crack down on their most popular marketable superstar or just look the other way. And in 1999, the league clarified the palming rule, basically giving referees the green light to ignore it. Iverson's cheat was subtle, but our next legend was the opposite. His dominance was so overwhelming, the league banned the most exciting shot in basketball just to stop him, the banned shot. In 1967, Lou Alcindor, who you may know as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was a 7'2" phenom, a cheat code with the most unstoppable move ever, the slam dunk. He was too tall, too fast, and too powerful. He never missed a dunk. The NCAA saw this and freaked out, and in 1967, they banned the dunk. For 10 years, you could not dunk a basketball in a college game. It was a technical foul. They claimed it was for safety, but everyone knew the truth. It was the Alcindor rule. It was a blatant attempt to nerf a single player, but the nerf backfired. It didn't stop Kareem. He just went in the lab and invented the single most unstoppable shot in NBA history, the skyhook. The NCAA banned the dunk to stop him, and in doing so, they accidentally created the most lethal offensive weapon the sport has ever seen. Kareem's exploit forced them to delete a move, but our next legend was so dominant, he forced the NBA to literally change the shape of the court. The alpha exploit. Wilt Chamberlain was so dominant, he forced a ton of rule changes, but his real nerf was changing the court itself. Before Wilt, the lane was 12 feet wide. He'd camp there, catch, and score. It was broken. So the league, wanting to make it more competitive, widened the entire lane to 16 feet. This rule, still known as the Wilt Chamberlain lane, was designed specifically to keep one man further from the basket, and it still didn't work. So they decided to nerf his free throw. Wilt was a terrible free throw shooter, so he just broke the rule. He would stand at the top of the key, run, leap from behind the free throw line, and dunk the ball. The league, completely fed up, created another rule just for him. You can't cross the free throw line until the ball hits the rim. Wilt, Kareem, and Mikan were god-tier exploits, forcing the league to change the court, ban the dunk, and invent invisible force fields. But nothing you've seen so far compares to the rule that accidentally crippled Michael Jordan after his comeback. But before we reveal the MJ nerf, we have to speedrun the rest of the NBA's patch notes they tried to hide. The lightning round. The Zaza rule. In 2017, Zaza Pachulia slid under Kawhi Leonard's landing space. Kawhi got injured, and the league, terrified of losing its stars, made it a flagrant foul not to give shooters safe landing space. The Trent Tucker rule. In 1990, Trent Tucker hit a game winner with 0.1 seconds on the clock. It was physically impossible. The league investigated and created a rule that you can't catch and shoot with less than 0.3 seconds. You can only tip it. The James Harden rule. Harden was so good at foul baiting, jumping sideways into defenders, that the league had to retrain its referees to stop rewarding him for non-basketball moves. The Derrick Rose rule. This one's different. In 2011, Derrick Rose won MVP on his rookie contract. The league realized it was unfair for a player that good to be paid that little, so they created a rule to let young superstars get massive pay raises, all because Rose was too good too fast. The MJ nerf. Now it's time for the final boss. For decades, the NBA had a rule called illegal defense that banned zones. This is the rule that gave Michael Jordan so much space to operate in the 90s. And then Shaq arrived. This rule change was meant to stop an unstoppable force, but it accidentally destroyed Michael Jordan's final comeback. The illegal defense rule that helped Jordan made Shaq unstoppable. Before the rule change, you weren't allowed to double team anyone until they got the ball. But by then, with Shaq, it was too late. He'd catch it, turn, and score. Teams got so desperate, they would intentionally foul and just give Shaq free throws because it was still better than letting him dunk on your head. The game was broken again, so in 2011, to nerf Shaquille O'Neal, the NBA legalized zone defense. This completely nerfed Shaq, who now had to fight through 3 guys, but it also crippled one-on-one players like Michael Jordan. Jordan in his final comeback saw his scoring average plummet. He couldn't get the same space he used to. The rule to stop Shaq had the side effect of hurting Jordan's legacy. Think NBA exploits are crazy? These banned golf clubs broke their sport even worse.